Yo, what's going on, guys? It's the Draft Nerd, and today we're going to be ranking my top 10 quarterbacks in the 2025 NFL Draft as of January. This list will be subject to change. This will not be my final list come draft day, but for right now, these are my top 10 quarterbacks and what I think of them. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, coming in at number 10, we got Kyle McCord, the quarterback from Syracuse. Now, he's 6'3", 215 pounds, and I have him projected as a UDFA. You know, there's usually only about 8 or 9 quarterbacks that get drafted each year. That doesn't mean Kyle McCord won't be on an NFL team. He'll probably be a priority UDFA, but I just don't know if I see him getting drafted. It's quite possible, but for right now, I have him as a UDFA. And so, with Kyle McCord, he originally played at Ohio State in 2023, and he didn't really play good at all. I didn't think Kyle McCord was a draftable quarterback or even an NFL quarterback at all. He transfers to Syracuse in 2024, and he's kind of turned his entire game around. You know, he's developed more into being a gunslinger type of quarterback. I mean, he has probably the most big-time throws out of the draftable quarterbacks. I have 19 ranked quarterbacks in this draft so far, and out of all of them, he has the most big-time throws, which is classified as a throw that is big time, like it's a good throw. It's a game-winning type of throw. And Kyle McCord has 36 of them, and for reference, guys like, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders both have 28, so he has a lot of big-time throws, but the caveat is he also has a lot of turnover-worthy plays. He has 22 turnover-worthy plays, which is also tops in the class. So, at Ohio State, he was more of a timid, kind of, I don't want to mess up, I don't want to lose this game type of quarterback at Ohio State. And he's turned himself into a gunslinger with a ton of passing yards, with 4,760 passing yards, a bunch of big-time throws, a bunch of turnover-worthy plays, interceptions, touchdowns. He's a fun quarterback to watch at Syracuse, but I just don't know if he's going to be able to, hone in, and keep the big-time throws, keep the gunslinger mentality, but try to limit some of the turnover-worthy plays. So, for his arm strength, I have him as a B+. I don't think it's anything insane. I think it's slightly above average. His improvising skills, I do think he's able to, get out of the pocket. I do think he's a bit of a clunky athlete. He's not the most fluid runner of the ball or anything like that. That's why I got him as a C+ as a rushing type of quarterback. But, he's able to improvise. He's able to throw on the run, things like that. His accuracy's a bit spotty at times, especially short and intermediate parts of the field. He has a really pretty deep ball, and he completes his deep balls at like a 50% rate, which is really high for, a college quarterback throwing the deep ball. So he has a really pretty deep ball, but accuracy as a whole is a little hit or miss for me. Throw on the run as well. He can make some, brilliant throws on the run, but he can also completely airmail receivers, throw interceptions that way. So, Kyle McCord, the Syracuse Kyle McCord is a gunslinger through and through. Some of the pros I have for him is that he played aggressive at Syracuse, completely different from when he played at Ohio State. He plays with really good rhythm. When he's able to just stand in the pocket and deliver throw after throw, and he gets a rhythm, he plays with a good rhythm. But, if you're able to, flush him out of the pocket, that's when some, either really good things happen or some really bad things happen with him. He's, really accurate on deep balls, like I mentioned, and he throws with a good base. Like I said, when he's in the pocket, he can throw with a really good base, and even when he gets out of the pocket, he's pretty cognizant on, being able to set a base before he throws on the run. That's when he makes the really good throws, but, if he's not setting a good base when he's throwing on the run, that's when things get wild with him. Some of the cons I have is he takes too long to move off his first read. He'll really stare down, the first read in the play call, and that allows, especially in zone defense, zone defenders who are looking at his eyes to be able to jump the routes, and that's again where a lot of his interceptions came from. He had 12 interceptions, which was, I think, tied with a couple other quarterbacks for the most in this class. So, that's a problem he has. Mobility in general, the NFL's moved more towards the mobile quarterback, and Kyle McCord just isn't that. So, he's not the most mobile guy, and he doesn't offer much when the play breaks down. And what I mean by that mainly is, if he tucks the ball and runs, he's able to escape the pocket and throw on the run at times, set a good base and throw. But, once he becomes a runner and he passes that line of scrimmage, he doesn't offer much. He's not going to be able to, gain 10 yards per, scramble or anything like that. But overall, I think this Kyle McCord, the Syracuse Kyle McCord, is a lot better than the Ohio State one. I just wish he was able to get one more year at Syracuse to really, try to limit those turnover-worthy plays. But he's out of eligibility. He's got to go into this draft, and I think a team could definitely take him, 6th, 7th round. But for me, he's a UDFA. Moving on to number 9, we got Kurtis Rourke, the quarterback out of Indiana, and he's a big guy at 6'5", 223 pounds, and he's another UDFA guy. Again, I could definitely see him getting drafted in the 6th, 7th round, but, projection-wise, he's a UDFA. Everyone moving forward after Kurtis Rourke, I do have a draftable projection on him, but for me, Kurtis Rourke is a UDFA. And getting into Kurtis Rourke, he has an A- for arm strength. At a 6'5", 223 base, you would think he had a much stronger arm, but I was just a little underwhelmed with his arm strength, as a whole. Obviously he has a good arm strength. It's an A-. Anything below an A- is probably like, slightly above average. So he does have an above average arm, but I was just looking for a little bit more with that massive base that he throws with. Improvising, he's not much of an improviser. I could probably even move that down to like a C+ if I wanted to. He's not much of an improviser. Same with rushing. He's a big body quarterback. He wants to stand in that pocket and deliver the throw on time and on target. He's not going to want to run past the line of scrimmage and pick up a first down with his legs. He's not even going to want to really escape the pocket. He can, and he can deliver some throws on the run, but that's just not what he really wants to do. Short accuracy is pretty good, A-. Medium accuracy, deep accuracy is good. Like I said, his deep ball is good, but it was just left a little bit to be desired with that, massive frame. Usually when you're 6'5", you have a cannon of an arm, and I don't think he has a cannon of an arm. I just think he has a pretty good arm. Throwing on the run, like I said, he can do it, but, he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to have to escape that pocket and throw on the run. He's got good anticipation. Processing's pretty all right. Pocket presence, though, is a bit of a concern, which I'll get into. So like I was talking about, good size, plus arm strength, nothing crazy, though. But the main thing that he does great is his ability to layer throws over the middle of the field. He's able to layer throws over that linebacker into the pocket of the receiver. He understands that he doesn't have to just zip a ball, straight to the receiver. He can, take some power off the throw to be able to layer it and have a good arc on the throw to get over that defender. So that's something that he's really, really good at. And then for the most part, he's accurate in general. If he's able to stay in the pocket, he's going to be able to deliver most NFL caliber throws. Some of the bad, downsides to him is his age. He is, I believe, a 6th-year senior, so he's going to be going into the NFL at like 24, 25 years old, which, isn't as big of a deal for quarterbacks, but, it's not necessarily a good thing either. Mobility as a whole, nothing really there much at all. And the main thing that I have a concern with Kurtis Rourke, and something I had a problem with Kyle McCord as well, is there's a trend in this quarterback class, and that's that a lot of them cannot hold on to the football. They fumble the ball a lot. Kyle McCord had 6 fumbles. Kurtis Rourke had 7 fumbles. There's guys who we'll get into that have, double-digit fumbles. So, just hold on to the ball. And with a guy like Kurtis Rourke who doesn't, run the ball, most of these fumbles are him just not being aware in the pocket and, not being and kind of being oblivious to pressure. So that's something that he really needs to work on. And that's the main reason I have him as a UDFA. I think he can be a solid backup quarterback in this league one day, but he just has to control his turnovers because for the most part, he takes care of the ball through the air, but you can't be putting the ball on the ground as much as he does. And, when you're looking for a backup quarterback, you're looking for a guy who can just, not screw up. And I think that Kurtis Rourke could screw up with those fumbling concerns. So if he cleans that up, I think he could be one of the, top echelon of backup quarterbacks in this league one day. Moving on to number 8, we got Riley Leonard, the quarterback from Notre Dame. And he stands at 6'4", 212 pounds, so a really good size for a quarterback. I got a top 150 grade on him, which means, I could see him being a day 3 pick. And a lot of people, including myself, you're going to hear this a lot probably with Riley Leonard. And it might be because he went to Duke before going to Notre Dame. He looks a lot like Daniel Jones. If you just look and you kind of squint your eyes while watching Riley Leonard, you're going to be like, wait a minute, is that Daniel Jones? I'm not going to say that's a good thing, but I don't think it's as bad as what you initially might think. So with Riley Leonard, he has a B+ arm strength, nothing that's going to wow you, but it's NFL caliber. Improvising, he's able to escape the pocket. He has the athleticism to be able to improvise. Sometimes he'll make some wild plays on the run, but for the most part, he's able to improvise and I have an A for his rushing ability. He leads all of these draftable quarterbacks in rushing yards with 982. He almost had 1,000 rushing yards, and to top that, he had 17 rushing touchdowns. He is a dual threat quarterback. A lot of people are going to be like, he's a sneaky athlete, and that's what I have in his pros, but I don't even think he's a sneaky athleticism. I just think he's a dual threat athletic quarterback. Some of his concerns mainly come from his ability to, read defenses and, deliver balls accurately. That's why I have a B plus for short accuracy, B for medium, and then C plus for deep. I think he needs to work on his deep ball a considerable amount, and the throwing on the run also is, cool, but it's not anything great. Anticipation needs a little bit of working on, processing as well, and then his pocket presence is also pretty darn bad. He doesn't have the fumbling problems as much as some of these other quarterbacks. He only fumbled 4 times, which, for most of this class is really, really good. Some other things is, like I said, he's able to make most NFL caliber throws, but he's not going to wow you with his arm talent. The cons, though, and why I do have him as a top 150 pick is, his inconsistency when it comes to ball placement and accuracy is the main thing, similar to Daniel Jones. Sometimes he'll get that ball out, right where it needs to be. Other times it's, over the receiver's head, behind the receiver. He gets a little bit flustered in the pocket, too. I don't think he sees ghosts necessarily, but he is oblivious to most pass rush. And then he also has trouble reading defenses. If he's asked to, move off his first read, second read, and get to like his third read, I don't think he's, even nearly fast enough to be able to do that in the NFL. Leonard for the most part is a one-read quarterback, and if that's not there, he's going to tuck it and run the ball because he's really good at running the ball. So I would like to see him kind of improve on his processing ability and things like that, and his accuracy. But when you're able to run the ball like he's able to run the ball, he's going to be able to survive in the NFL, at least as a backup. And I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in his career he gets a chance to be a starter. Moving on to number 7, we got Quinn Ewers, the quarterback out of Texas, and he's 6'2", 195 pounds, so a little bit iffy on the weight, but, I think it's serviceable. And I also have a projection of a top 150 pick, so again, maybe a day 3, maybe a late day 2 if he's lucky. And we'll get into why that is the case, because a lot of people probably see Quinn Ewers and think of him as a maybe early, second round pick. But, if you really dive into the tape, I don't think he's worth a early day 2 pick, maybe a late day 2 pick, but for the most part, early day 3 in my opinion. And when you get into Quinn Ewers, his arm talent, arm strength, arm velocity, things like that, some of the best you'll ever really see. He's up there with kind of like a Joe Milton. And for, Quinn Ewers' smaller base, that's super, super impressive. He's able to make any throw. He's able to get the ball anywhere on the field. Whether that's, 55 plus yards down the field. He's able to throw with velocity, to the sidelines, across the hash. He's able to make throws like that. But the thing that you got to worry about with Quinn Ewers is, for one, extremely inconsistent. He'll have one of the best games you'll see, against a team, and then the following week he'll have one of the worst games you'll see from him. So he really needs to be able to just be more consistent, because, his top games is first round caliber, but his bottom games are undrafted behavior. So, you just got to be able to hone in on that a little bit more. Like I said, elite arm strength, plays good off of play action. That's when he's at his best, is when he plays off of play action, from what I've seen. Throws the ball with really good velocity. Like I said, arm talent through the roof. The things you worry about, a little light at 195. I think he'll bump that up a little bit though. His deep ball accuracy, though he can get the ball 55 yards, his accuracy is very, very bad. I think he improved a little bit this year, but overall, his deep accuracy is just not where it needs to be. If he was able to hone in on that accuracy on the deep ball, he could be a really good quarterback in my opinion. But again, he's just very inconsistent. Some of these grades I have on him may be a little bit harsh, but every time I make one of these videos, people always have problems with, oh, why do you have B for his medium accuracy? It should be at least a B+. Okay, look, the grades are just something for you to look at while I talk. More so just listen to what I say about these players than the grades. Those are just something that you can look at while I'm talking. But, like I said, overall, I think Quinn Ewers has the capability to be a really good quarterback and a good starter in this league if he limits his incredible inconsistency. And then he also doesn't offer much, rushing the ball as well. Again, I have a B-, could very easily be a C+ as well. Moving on to number 6, we got the quarterback Will Howard out of Ohio State. He is who replaced Kyle McCord this year at Ohio State, and he's 6'4", 235 pounds, so a really big guy. And I have a 150 projection for him. Could easily be a top 100 player. Again, it's really early into the process. All right, so the main thing with Will Howard is he has good arm strength at that 6'4", 235 pound base. He's able to improvise. He's not the most athletic guy. He's a bit of a clunky athlete, but he's able to improvise. He's able to get out of the pocket and throw on the run, and he's not afraid to tuck the ball and run as well. He's just a clunky athlete. I don't think it's going to be able to translate very well to the NFL, but in college he was a good rusher as well. He's got really good footwork, which leads to pretty solid accuracy both on the run and when he's able to stay in the pocket. He can make just about any throw. Whether that's, across the hash, a deep ball. Like, he has the arm strength to be able to do that. It's just not top tier in my opinion. And the reason for that is he's able to get the ball there, but sometimes it can float in the air just a little too long, and that allows defenders to be able to, make up ground and even intercept the ball at times. I think he's got a good deep ball, but the velocity just isn't as good as I would want it to be. Like I said earlier, he's a clunky athlete. I think he can run the ball, but in the NFL, I don't know if he's got the athleticism to be able to, consistently run the ball without taking some pretty big hits. And like I said, another theme in this class is fumbling concerns, massive fumbling concerns. He had 8 fumbles this year, just not good enough. And I forgot to mention about Quinn Ewers, who I had at number 7, 10 fumbles. His pocket presence needs a lot of work. That's another big thing with Quinn Ewers that I forgot to mention. But with Will Howard, again, 8 fumbles, still not good enough. I wouldn't want my quarterback to have more than, I'd say, like 3 fumbles in an entire season. So he's got to be able to work on holding on to the football. But besides that, I think he can operate an offense how a coach would want him to operate it. He's not going to be able to do the flashy things that we see from top-tier quarterbacks like a Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, anyone like that. He's not going to be able to do that in the NFL. But I think he could be a low-tier starter in this league, similar to a guy like, Derek Carr or someone like that, where he's a starter in this league, but he's always going to be on the verge of being replaceable. But in this draft class, I think that's pretty good. So that's what I have on Will Howard. Coming in at number 5, we got Dillon Gabriel, the quarterback out of Oregon, and he's 6 foot 200 pounds. And I think that's a generous 6 foot 200 pounds. I think he's more close to 5'11", maybe 5'11 and a half, 195 pounds. He is a small quarterback, but despite that, I still have him as a top 100 player, and we'll get into why, because he's a pretty darn good quarterback. With a guy like Dillon Gabriel, arm talent's not going to be there. He's just too small to be able to have insane arm talent. That's why I have his arm strength as a B. But besides that, I think he's a really good kind of point guard for an NFL team. His improvising, he has the ability to get out of the pocket and improvise and throw on the run with, pretty good accuracy. Actually, kind of really good accuracy if you want to really dig into it. Rushing ability, I got a B+. I think he's able to run, but is he going to be considered a dual threat quarterback? Probably not. I think he's got the ability to run, but you're not going to design run plays for him. Accuracy wise, I think he's close to being the most accurate quarterback from this class. Short accuracy, I got it in an A, medium A-, and a deep B+, just because sometimes that ball will hang in the air just because it doesn't have the best arm strength. And then throwing on the run, I have an A-. I think he's really good, and some of his best throws come on the run. Anticipation B+, processing B+, pocket presence B+, all above average, but not great. I think he's good at reading the field. He knows and understands where he needs to go with the football. I think he's a plus athlete, like I said, but is he going to be able to wow you with his legs? Probably not. But the biggest thing with Dillon Gabriel that I love is his turnover-worthy play rate is so low. He just knows how to hold on to the football and not throw it into dangerous places. He only had 9 turnover-worthy plays, which resulted in a 1.7 turnover-worthy play rate, which is tops in the class, I'm pretty sure. I think there might be one other quarterback that's better, and we'll get to him in a little bit, but for the most part, he does not put the ball into harm's way, which is so important for a quarterback, especially coming out of college. Some of the concerns for him, though, which is why I have him at number 5, is massive size concerns. I mean, we see with Bryce Young, who was a way better prospect than Dillon Gabriel coming out of college. We've seen him was almost out of the league in some people's eyes. He got another chance to start and has really turned it around here lately, but he really struggled when he first got into the league, and he was, a number 1 overall pick. A guy like Dillon Gabriel, he's going to need a lot of time to be able to kind of get used to NFL type of play while being that size. You know, he doesn't have the strongest arm due to his size. He's also a really old quarterback. I believe he's played 6 years in college. He has a lot of experience, and I think that's what results in his low turnover-worthy play and him being just a point guard of that offense, which for some teams, that's all you really want a guy to do. You see a guy like Jared Goff is a point guard to that offense, and, you know, they were Super Bowl favorites until they got knocked out of the playoffs by the Commanders. So I think that there's a place for a guy like Dillon Gabriel, but it's going to have to be a right team, and he's going to have to be able to get a chance to be able to start a few games. So I really like Dillon Gabriel. I think if he was, you know, 2 inches taller and 10 pounds heavier, I think he would have a real chance at being the number 1 quarterback in this draft. I just think with his small size, that really knocks him down, and I'm not going to bet on the anomaly of a guy like Dillon Gabriel being a really good quarterback in the NFL at that size. I think it could happen, but I'm not going to bet on the anomaly. Coming in at number 4, we got the quarterback Jaxson Dart out of Ole Miss. And this is a bit of a risky pick having him here at number 4, and I'll get into why, but he's 6'2", 220 pounds, so good size. I got a top 100 projection on him, and, you know, he's got really good arm talent, A-. You know, he can improvise. He's got the athleticism to be able to rush the ball. I mean, he had 648 rushing yards last season with 3 touchdowns with his legs, so, you know, he's a good athlete. In the NFL, I don't think he will be as good, just like most college quarterbacks, but I do think he has the ability to, you know, scramble throughout the pocket and make throws on the run and things like that. I think he's really good, and I think he's got a good moxie to him to where he's able to stand in the pocket, knowing that he's going to take a massive hit from the pass rusher, but he's able to stand in the pocket and deliver the throw, which a lot of quarterbacks you'll see will, if they know they're about to get hit, they'll kind of fade off their back foot and kind of just toss the ball while trying to brace for the, you know, impact that they're about to take. Guy like Jaxson Dart, he'll see a rusher coming right down his face, and he'll make sure he stays in that pocket tall and strong and deliver the throw while taking the hit. You know, he's not afraid of taking a hit, which I really, really like about him. And then also, he's a good off-platform thrower. You know, if he does have to, you know, maneuver through the pocket and, you know, throw the ball on the run, I think that's where some of his best throws come from. And I think he's going to be an improviser type of quarterback in the NFL, similar to a guy like, I mean, I'm not going to throw out a comp like this, but similar to a play style of a Baker Mayfield. The things you worry about with Jaxson Dart, though, coming from that Ole Miss offense, he is a one-read quarterback through and through. You know, he doesn't take many steps under center. He's a shotgun player who's a first-read player. And that's just a fault of the Ole Miss offense, I think. We've seen a guy like Matt Corral come out a few years ago, was out of the league within 2 years. Good player, but that Ole Miss offense, I think, ruined him. And I hope that doesn't happen to Jaxson Dart, because I think he's a really good quarterback, but that offense just does not translate to the NFL at all. So I think he has the talent, but he's a guy who's going to have to sit 2 years before he's, you know, able to be a starter in this league, in my opinion, because he's got to get used to taking snaps under center and being able to get off his first read to a second read, third read before he, you know, tries to tuck it and run. That's the main and massive concern I have with Jaxson Dart. And then another thing I have is he holds onto the ball for way too long. Like I said, sometimes he'll just lock on his first read, and if it's not there, you know, he just waits and waits for that guy to get open, and sometimes the guy just doesn't get open. And then that leads to a lot of bad sacks as well. It all stems from him being a first-read quarterback and that Ole Miss offense. That's the only really cons I have with him. I think he's a really good quarterback. I just think it's going to take a lot of time to adjust to NFL type of offenses. And then getting into the top 3, I think these are the top 3 quarterbacks by a wide margin. I have Jaylen Milroe at number 3, the quarterback out of Alabama. He's 6'2", 220 pounds, and I have a top 50 grade on him. And I could see him going back into the first round for sure. You know, with a guy like Jaylen Milroe, he has all the traits in the world. Really good arm strength, really good ability to improvise, and I got an A+ for his rushing ability. He had 879 rushing yards and 20 rushing touchdowns last year at Alabama. You know, once he gets drafted, he'll be up there with a guy like Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson with his dual threat capability. The things you got to worry about with him is though is that, you know, everything upstairs mentally is not fully progressed at all. You know, I'll just, you know, run down some of his pros. Very good arm strength, very good athlete, And then he isn't afraid of pushing the ball downfield. Sometimes that results in a lot of turnover-worthy plays. This year he had 14 turnover-worthy plays, which, isn't as much as you would think with his type of play style. He had 29 big-time throws, which is a lot. Like I said, a guy like Kyle McCord had 36, which was just so much. 29 is really good as well. So he's not afraid to push the ball down the field and use his arm strength, but his accuracy is just super spotty at times. B plus for short accuracy. I think he can miss some really easy throws at times. Medium accuracy is probably his worst, type of ball. It will just sail on him a lot of times. It'll sail over the defender's head, which will, result in an interception at times. Deep ball accuracy is a B plus. I think it could get a lot better, but he has all the arm talent to be able to be a good deep ball thrower. Throwing on the run, again, he's a really good athlete. Sometimes his accuracy is a little bit spotty on the run. Anticipation is all right. Processing is really the main thing he needs to work on, and his pocket presence isn't great either. He has trouble reading defenses. He has trouble identifying blitzes. Accuracy is spotty to say the least, and then he relies too much on his arm. And what I mean by that is sometimes he'll kind of lean off his back foot to make the throw, and to be a good quarterback in the NFL, you got to be able to set a good base to deliver throws. And sometimes Jaylen Milroe thinks just because he has a strong arm, he can make any throw with a bad base, and that's just not going to work in the NFL. So I think that he has all the traits to be a very, very good quarterback in the NFL. He just needs to sit for a year. I think he needs to sit a year to really just kind of intake all the information on how to be a good NFL quarterback, and I think he could be a good quarterback in the NFL one day. I just don't want him starting year one. And then coming in at number 2, I got Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback out of Colorado. 6'2", 215 pounds, and I have a first-round grade on him. I think he'll probably end up being a top 3 pick. He's basically the complete opposite of a Jaylen Milroe. B plus arm strength I think is adequate for the NFL, but nothing special at all. Improvising, he's not a great athlete. He's not going to be able to run the ball much in the NFL. But what you really like about Shedeur Sanders is he is extremely accurate, and he throws with pretty good anticipation, and he's really able to process the field. He's able to move off his first read to a second read to his third read. He's able to do that at a high level. He is the best point guard. I talked about earlier with Dylan Gabriel being a point guard of a quarterback. Shedeur Sanders is the best point guard quarterback in the NFL. He's going to be able to run the offense smoothly. He doesn't turn over the ball a lot. Only a 1.2 turnover-worthy play percentage, which is the least in the NFL, or which is the least out of all of these college quarterbacks. He still has a good amount of big-time throws with 28. That's a 5.4 big-time throw percentage, which is really good. This guy is a good quarterback. He just doesn't have all the flashy traits that, most quarterbacks going with the top 3 pick have, like, crazy arm strength, crazy athletic ability. That's just something that he just doesn't have, which limits him as a quarterback. It limits his ceiling. But his floor is so high that I think a team's going to fall in love with his floor, maybe a team like the Giants, and take him with a top 3 pick to be just either an average to above average quarterback for the next 10 years. I could really see that in Shedeur Sanders' future. I don't think he'll ever be a top 5 quarterback because he doesn't have great athleticism, great arm strength, but with his ability to understand an offense and throw with really good accuracy, I think he'll be a starting caliber quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years. And then coming in at number 1, we got Cam Ward from Miami. 6'2", 223 pounds, good size, and I think he'll most likely end up being the first overall pick in this draft. Do I think he's the best player in this draft? No. I just think he's the best quarterback. And, with quarterback value, you're going to be taking number 1 overall most of the time. I think he's got really good arm strength, really good improvising ability. I think he's a good athlete. I don't think he's anything insane, though. I just think he's an above average athlete. Accuracy is pretty good. Not as good as Shedeur Sanders, A for short accuracy, B plus for medium and deep. And then I think he can throw on the run pretty well as well. With a guy like Cam Ward, I just think he has better traits than a Shedeur Sanders. That's why I have him here at number 1. I think he has a higher ceiling, which is what a lot of teams look for. Sometimes he can have a backyard football style, play to him. Which what I mean by that is, like, if a play breaks down, he'll kind of just make something happen. Both Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders both hold on to the ball for way too long. That's their biggest knocks and why they're probably not considered, top tier quarterback prospects. They need to get the ball out more quick. I forgot to mention, but Shedeur Sanders has a 3-second time to throw, which is very, very high. Cam Ward has a 2.93. You want that to be more at 2.5. That's, where you want that time to throw to be. So they need to lower that quite a bit. And another thing with Cam Ward that I'm not a big fan of is his kind of nonchalantness in the pocket, you know, he'll completely be flat-footed at times while in the pocket, which it works for him, and it'll probably work in the NFL, who knows, but for me, I just don't like that. I want you to be on your toes, be able to have a little bit of a hop to you, and that's just not what Cam Ward has, which may be more of an aesthetic problem I have, but it works for him, so I'm not going to be mad at him. I think Cam Ward has a really high ceiling. I think he could be a really good quarterback in the NFL one day, but you know, similar to a lot of these other guys, I don't really want him starting, you know, day one in the NFL. The only quarterback I feel completely confident in starting day one is probably a Shedeur Sanders, just because he has all the mental traits to be able to be a good quarterback. A guy like Cam Ward might not have that, but I do think eventually Cam Ward will be the best quarterback to come from this draft class. So that's going to be the video. Let me know what you guys think of my rankings. I'm sure a lot of you are going to have problems with it. Let me know down in the comments. And again, this is subject to change. This list could look completely different come April. This is just what I think as of January 24th. So with that being said, I hope you liked the video, and I'm the Draft Nerd, and thanks for watching.